Hello, everyone. Welcome to Love and Lunch, and thank you for bearing with me as I learn how to use a computer. This is your 20-minute Facebook Live on love, life, and intimacy. And we're going to be answering a question that Joe got today about more than two people in a relationship or having more than one relationship at the same time. I'm Joanna Keeble, founder and coach at bigbeautifulboundaries.com. And I run an awesome little Facebook group called Big Beautiful Boundary Builders that I will drop a link to after this video. Over to you, Joe.
Beautiful, thank you. Yeah, I'm Jo Cooper, dating, sex and relationship coach, and I help women to claim their truth, stand in the power, and identify what their desires are so they can have a fulfilling, turned-on relationship.
Nice. So, yeah, you got a really interesting question. And oh, I think you sent it to me, but do you want to read it to us?
Yeah, I just got it here. I just want to say I've got a really pink face. I feel like I needed to stay, my face is extra pink because I've just had a really hot bath to help my back. And yeah, I don't know why, I feel like I just needed to say that.
It's really funny, like you were distracted by your pink face and I'm all about my lighting today.
Yeah, I'm just, oh my God, I'm going live. I've got this huge big raspberry pink face. But you know what? I don't care. I'm doing everything I can to open the top of my back. So
yeah.
Had
to brag about the bath.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so someone sent me a message actually on Instagram, and he said, I have a question. Is there a right way to stand in your truth if I don't feel like being fully committed in a relationship? And this came up and I asked him a little bit more. And even though, I work predominantly with, people who identify as a woman, I have worked with, I have worked with men in the past, and I feel like I do want to work with them this year. So it's interesting, actually. I often get quite a lot of questions from men, and I asked him a little bit more about this question. And I think the thing that I really, okay, so I'm going to tell you like what he what he responded when I asked him a little bit more. And he said, I've got like two lovers and they're both jealous of one another, but he doesn't really want to commit to both of them. He says that he loves them both. And so there's a few different layers to this, like many different layers to this.
Yeah.
I think the first thing that I want to touch upon is like, we can create our relationships exactly the way that we want, right? There's no right or wrong way to have a relationship. It has to come within, like, how do I want to relate romantically, intimately to people? Like, what actually is my truth here? And I honestly believe if it's our truth to be in a relationship, so if it was my truth to be in a relationship with two people where not one of them was my primary partner, but both of them, I was in a relationship, and for me, what has to come with that is like honesty and integrity, and it has to come from a place of love, and it will only work like if if they're happy with that as well. Because if they're not, and they are like, and they're just doing it, and they're coming from a place of fear, oh, I really fancy you, I really like you, it isn't quite working for me, but I'm going to stay in this anyway. And I think sometimes we can almost get blindsided by lust in a relationship. And I think that almost within itself is coming always from a place of fear.
Yeah, on both sides, right? Because I thought you were going to talk about their lust, and I was going to say, well, it can also be insecurity, but yeah, there can be a place where, yeah, totally. I love this. All right, so I'm polyamorous.
Yeah.
Right. This reminds me of my first conversations with myself about how to do non-monogamy ethically. Right, because I would approach a guy and say, this is the deal, I'm open, I just don't belong to anyone except myself, and neither do you, and I don't want to control or own you, I don't want to limit you or me in any way, and this is different for everyone, this is me. And I realized that the people that I wanted to connect with may well say, yeah, of course, yeah, I get it, of course, that sounds brilliant. And either they might not be telling the truth, or they might think that one day it will change, or they might not notice, they might not actually go in and realize, or they might discover later that it's not right for them, and get hurt unexpectedly. And how often do we take verbal consent as enough? And how often do we all know, if we actually look at the examples of when we've said yes, that it's not enough to rely on somebody's yes?
It's the
And I like,
action.
yeah, well, I mean, there's just the feeling as well, because I think it's worth saying, particularly those of us socialized as women are taught to take a lot in relationships. And I don't mean take, right? So the traditional thing is to bring us up as men and women and teach men to grab life, ow, and consume it. Yeah, it's mine, I'm going to take it. And to bring the other half of the populace up as women and say, take it, just relax, what are you being so tight about? Open up, let me in, I want to take something from you, just accept it, just take it. It's really like creepy when you look at it that way. And so there's a place where, for example, in most of my relationships, most of my life, I enthusiastically did things and accepted things that were really harmful for me. I kind of thought that's what relating was. I thought that's what relationships were. And that's what came up when you said it's a guy, it's a man and two women, and he can tell they're not happy, right? Or he can tell he said he can feel their jealousy, right? And then it's like, well, the thing about, I've written down ethics and power dynamics. There's this power imbalance at play between the genders. I wrote about this very recently. Just because men have been told to be entitled to things and women have been told not to. And so it's like, do you want to be in a relationship with people who feel like they have to be there? That they need you, so they're not going to get better, or they can't risk losing what they've got, even though it's not what they want.
Yeah, and the thing that just came up for me in that actually was like, it wouldn't be, I'm just bringing it back to my experience, that if I was in that situation, would it feel pleasurable for me to be in a relationship, say, I don't know, say there was two men and I was in a relationship with two men, and I know that they weren't 100% in because they actually wanted to just be with me, or claiming they didn't like the fact that I was in a relationship with another person.
Yes.
Like, that wouldn't feel great. Like, it would just feel really sticky. I wouldn't feel like, oh my God, can I say this thing to this other person? I think I think it would just like limit the idea of freedom, which I know is what a lot of men crave for in relationship, is this idea of freedom, right? But I honestly, no, for a woman, it's more about like feeling like loved and connected to the heart center. And I think it's And yeah, I think there's freedom as well, but it's more about like feeling that love. It's really like coming to a place of like love and feeling loved. And I think if you want, if those women in that relationship really connected to what is their truth here, does it feel right to be in a relationship where there is a man in another relationship? I think if they actually got to their own truth, I'd probably think that they wouldn't be happy being in that kind of dynamic. And I think that's where it has the possibility, or where it is causing some harm, whether they're conscious to it or not. If it doesn't feel good for them, then it is, because there's actually resentment that's going to be built up within that. And that's where the jealousy from the resentment is like acting out. And that's what he can feel.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because he's the one who's asked the question. So yeah, we can talk about what's good for them or what they need to do. And he's the one saying, I can feel their jealousy. Now that's an interesting statement, because that can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. And there's a place, I think, for him to feel in and be really honest with himself. Does it feel good? Does it feel like, you know, they're happy? Or does it feel like they're dishonoring themselves and under ordering on what they want? And then it's sort of like, in a way, it's their job to honor their desire. And we can act like, well, it's not my job, it's your job, it's your desire. And in a society that has told half of the population to be quiet and be compliant and to put other people before them, you know, then we have, you know, it really, there's the power imbalance again. I feel like there is a duty of care. I think we have a duty of care in any relationship where one party's ability to consent is invalidated. And in reality, that's kind of all of us. We all have a really messed up approach to boundaries and to consent and how to honor ourselves. So there is no place where we don't have a duty of care in relationships, to pay attention, to feel in, to say what we see and say what we feel. Now, here's another spot. I had it in my relationship where my partner didn't feel like it was ethical to be with me, because at one point he felt like he couldn't handle the complexity of being with someone who was polyamorous. And I said, well, let's play with it. I'll be mono, right? I'll be monogamous and you be open. You be poly. You can connect with who you want to connect with. And I was a yes to that. And he was really uncomfortable with it. And then he wanted to help me by stopping me being with him. And then it's really interesting, because I was like, well, I want to play here. You know, I want to do this. I have thought about it. I have felt about it. And this is a game I want to play. I'm not saying it's clear. I'm saying it's not. But they're conversations worth having, and it's worth feeling into. For me, it was really frustrating, because I want to take care of myself and I want to be allowed to use my autonomy to make decisions, even if they're edgy ones. And it's not a place that I personally felt oppressed. I didn't. And being polyamorous to me isn't about having to hungrily grab for extra. I don't actually need it. It's not about how many people you connect with or how often I connect with them, you know? So yeah, so it's a place where he's got to really, you know, what's the piece that he's responsible for that doesn't actually cross their boundaries or patronize them or ignore them? Oh, there's one thing you said. So I was just going to say the word attention.
Yeah, and it comes back to those two questions that you said around, like, how does it feel? Like, where can you honor like your feelings and communicate I think the responsibility that I'm kind of thinking of for anybody in a relationship is to basically honor what they're feeling and start with that and communicate that
Yeah.
and notice what's coming up. Because for me, how I've experienced jealousy, and it comes onto the attention piece in relationships, is when I haven't felt the nutrient from my main partner, or I haven't had the attention that feels solid and loved. And it's, I think for me, when I can feel someone's attention is all over the shop. I'm just like, as a woman, like I can really feel it from, you know, I was in a relationship with a man, and I can feel when his attention was on so many women. And it was, and that for me was just like, yeah, something was missing, and it was in that piece. And I think that's when, you know, for me, that was when jealousy started to, you know, get activated a lot.
There's a couple of ways of dealing with that, right? Because you can see this man and say, oh, he's with these people and that's why I'm not getting enough. Otherwise, I could have all of that. Or you can say, this is the piece that he's available for, and I need that much. And then you can go and get your needs met, get the attention. But yeah, jealousy. So for me, jealousy, yeah, there is a link. I think for a lot of people, it's linked in. I think for a lot of people raised as girls, then it's linked in with daddy's attention. That sounds really creepy now because I just said daddy. Your father's attention, right, or the absent father. So my father was physically present, but mentally, emotionally absent because he was busy. He was in the other room, so he wasn't technically available to me. He was in the building. You know what I mean? And that's definitely, I've got to see my jealousy sort of unfold and show me what it's actually made of. And that's a huge piece. So it's about that nutrient I didn't get in childhood. And then when it pops up, when there's, you know, when the attention seems to be on someone else, if I'm not meeting that need somehow, if I haven't dealt with that untapped trauma that's just there waiting to pop up, it'll come up again and hit me, and it feels fresh like the first time. That wound comes up and I get to feel it, and it's awful, you know. But what I found now is by dealing with my jealousy, by realizing it's mine, it's about how I relate to men and how I relate to women. And yes, I use the binary because that's how I always imagined it. It was the man who's not giving me the attention I need. The only place I can get things is going to be through this man. And the woman, the other woman who's taking it from him and taking it from me, right? So by unpicking both of those characters in my psyche, it's completely different now. And the love of my life can connect for all kinds of nourishment with other people. And it just feels good. I'm just feeling the journey. Yeah, do the fucking work. If it's jealousy, you can. Chances are there's some work to be done, and there's a lot of freedom and nourishment on the other side. Like, it's not real. It's not real that he needs to stop getting his nourishment so that you can live in scarcity with getting only your nourishment from him. It's not true. Yeah, that's definitely hit a spot.
I just want to say quickly before we wrap up on that nourishment thing, I've healed a lot of my own jealousy from actually finding out how I can connect to myself more deeply.
Yes.
how I can connect to my heart, how in like a lot of pain I don't need anybody, but the uncomfortable part about just being with myself and feeling how uncomfortable it feels when some man has not texted when I wanted them to text, or I've not met them, and it's just like, oh, and it's just like, I'm enough. It's okay. It's actually okay, because my relationship to myself and to
Yeah.
spirit is just like the only thing here that matters. Like, that for me is my journey, and I just come back to that every single time, and then nothing else matters. Like, nothing. Like, yeah, those feelings are valid, but it's my relationship to myself that is actually the most important thing here. And I just come back to love, like literally come back to love and work with that.
That's it.
Come back to love.
The new album.
The new album, Come Back to Love. And yeah, anyway,
Oh,
this has been such a beautiful episode, um episode obsession, whatever we want to call it. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for everybody if you've joined live, if you're watching this on replay, #replay. If you have any questions around this topic, if anything has brought anything up for you, whether you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that, or maybe you want to rejoice in something and share an experience, you can message us privately, or you can respond underneath this video. Yeah, we would love to hear your thoughts. This is such a beautiful, fruitful topic that we don't often get to discuss in spaces like these, so we really welcome anything that you've got on this topic. And yeah, so just to wrap up then, I have got an amazing Facebook group called Empowering Women to Ignite Their Desires. I will drop the link below. You are more than welcome. If you identify as a woman and you'd like to come into this space, it'd be beautiful to have you there. I have a masterclass up that I'm going to keep up till the end of the week. I've had such beautiful feedback. It's been amazing to teach it. It's all about how to receive the pleasure and intimacy that you want. So if you'd like to catch that, it's still available. And there, in about 3 weeks' time, I will be launching a course, a 6-week pleasure course. So if that interests you, then get in contact with me regarding that, and I'll hand you over to Joanna.
gorgeous. I always end up with the word gorgeous at the end of these things.
I know, because I always say gorgeous. Every time I just say gorgeous.
I tell you what happens. We talk, and then often it ends up feeling like we've created such a like this energy that I just want to sit in it for a couple of minutes. Right. So yeah, if you don't know, I have chronic fatigue, and what that means is I have dramatically changed the way that I live my life. You don't need a chronic illness to do that. It's just that I needed to be really clipped round the ear by life in a way that woke me up and kind of forced me to take my self-care seriously. And now I help other people to do it, ideally before they've reached burnout. But what that means is that I allow my business plans to take longer than as long as they need, longer than I ever thought they would take. And there's a workshop that's been on my mind for a long time, and it's coming. That's all I'm going to say right now. There's a collaboration happening with someone. I think we're going to be talking today. It's all very exciting. So watch this space. If you want to hear about that, the first place that there'll be information will be in my Facebook group, Big Beautiful Boundary Builders. Building this gorgeous little community and having some decent conversations about boundaries, ethics and relationships. How do you have a healthy relationship? How do you deal with your trauma? How do you stop showing up in ways that are not getting you what you want? Or how do you heal, you know. So there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of different people. Everyone's having their unique experience. But what I love is that we've all got this one thing in common, that we want to learn and grow. So if you're interested, come on into my group and have a look around. And that's it. That's it for this week. This has been really fun. And yeah, get in touch if you feel to.
Beautiful. All right then, my lovelies. Until next week, have a beautiful rest of the week. A gorgeous week. I just draw that word.
Wondering where our brand is going with this. Well, I need a cigarette to go with it. Gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Yeah, so funny. But yeah, anyway, so much love. Bye-bye.